Hello, Tungsten Miner here. This episode, I'm going to talk about the kind of settling in process, or the adding fine details process, and turning this from a kind of shell of a structure into an actual uh, building. First thing you'll notice, I've figured out these doors. What I needed to do was to take the two doors and make them of the same kind in Malasis Doors mod, and then putting them down together, they work in tandem. So I just made them a rotating door rather than rotating slide left or whatever it was. The next thing you'll notice is I've started adding in some more realistic kind of structural support. You know, some of these really, really big spaces don't make a lot of sense without some kind of structural integrity, and I don't really have much in the way of things in the walls or thick enough walls to make it, seem realistic that this space should be able to support itself, particularly considering how thin the roof is and how little support it has. So I've added in structural elements all the way through here, in here. If I come downstairs, you can see cross beams going across there. And even if I go downstairs, there's some more. So I'll go down there in a minute. Passing through, I've moved my matter transmitter and matter receiver into this little room just off the main hall. Seems like a good place for it. These actually are hooked up to power. So going downstairs here, we can see I've installed a lot of the golden Kinesis pipe that I use for my other build. And I've got these hooked up to the two boxes here so that they can power each other. I've also turned on this hide thing so you don't see that big column of light sticking out of the transmitter. I might turn it back on. I kind of like it. So down here I've got even thicker and heavier cross columns supporting the floor and the beams up above. While it does take up some of the space, it adds a little more kind of realism to the structure itself. Here's some more of the golden Kinesis pipes coming around. The elevator is now complete. So all the buttons are in place, all the collars are in place. I've finished adding in the rest of the elevator base and all of the elevator frames, so now everything works all the way up to the top floor. I also decided to take out the door here because I just wasn't finding a good way to make it so that the doors opening and closing worked when you had two of them on the same floor. It works pretty well when you can put the door right next to the elevator collar, but not when it's more than a block away. So I just decided to take that door out. Now all the rest of them work pretty well. Heading over here, I've got my pressure system, which really hasn't changed, but I've added in these same thin wire glass facades. Basically, I took, well, I don't have any more. I took glass and put it in the chisel, and then picked out the thin grid glass pattern, and then put those through the assembly table and made facades out of them. And then you can just drop them down wherever you've got a pipe and attach them to that side of the pipe. The nice thing is that if you don't have these things, you kind of get that dipping in and out pattern. So as you're walking past, you're kind of bobbing up and down. It's a little distracting. This makes it so you have a nice flat floor. This has now continued all the way over here so that we've got the power system set up going up to the ceiling, and the power pipes go all the way back to this room too. I've been using these red granite facades just as it goes under the wall so that it doesn't look like the wall itself is undermined in a funny way. I kind of like how that looks. And up here on the roof, I've moved the windmill from that corner down there where I had everything just kind of temporarily set up to being over here, and used some andesite microblocks in order to make a fairly realistic, hopefully, tower for the windmill itself. And so the power comes down directly, goes into this HV capacitor. I have, oh, not on me, but I'll go grab that. Actually, I'm going to go grab that and be right back. Back again, and I have grabbed my engineer's voltmeter. which is a tool provided by Immersive Engineering that allows you to peek at any given block and find out what energy it has stored in it. Now, this isn't terrifically useful for the thermal expansion blocks, so you can actually bring up an interface and see how much power they've got. But for the immersive engineering capacitors, they don't actually show you what power they've got inside. So you want to use this voltmeter in order to just point it at them and find out. You can also point at things like these wire connectors and basically all of the immersive engineering energy blocks. Even the machines, if they have an internal reservoir, you can poke this thing at them and find out how much power is in there. So this is an HV capacitor, and it's capable of storing up to 4 million RF. Right now you can see it's about 2.5. So handy to know because you can't really find out what's going on with these things any other way. And the windmill's just going to keep charging that thing up as I draw power for doing various things around the house, either teleporting back and forth to my other house or even using the elevator, which decompresses that pressure chamber a bit. And then the flux compressor runs to get things back up to charge. That's going to use a little bit of energy too. So the way that this is set up is I have an emerald kinesis pipe drawing power out of the HV capacitor. And this really is meant to make it so that I don't have a weird hole in the roof. The capacitor is just in the roof and makes up a block of the roof. And then I draw power off and down to the hardened energy cell. Eventually, I'm going to replace this with something with much larger capacity because this is just 2 million RF right now. So actually, that is storing the bulk of the power for this dwelling. And then this is just kind of extra. What I like about the hardened energy cells and the resonant energy cells, the whole family of thermal expansion, is you can actually see, first of all, without any special tools, how much energy it has. And two, you can control the output and control which sides things are on, again, without any special tools. It makes them a bit more convenient. And directly underneath us is another emerald kinesis pipe that draws the power off and puts it into the power network that goes all throughout the rest of the house that we were looking at before. I followed the same convention here of using the red tinted glass for power generation. In actual fact, that means these two pipes are red tinted and everything else is blue tinted, because at the moment I've only got the one source of power, and it'll be a little while before I've built the rest of the power sources. But when I do, I will have more red tinted pipes carrying that power over here. And this is a very common pattern for me in the way I wind up building things is, do something simple to get a little bit of power, get enough storage so that I can keep track of it all, and then when I get around to a bigger project, to add in more elaborate power storage. Apart from that, I haven't made any other progress in the house, so there's still lots of torches. I want to get to making those powered lanterns sooner than later. And I haven't added in much else in the way of architectural details. So door frames and some of the microblock stuff I was showing in the door frame over in the blue wing there. And I want to do that for a bunch more of the door frames here. I also don't have a lot of tools or food or and beds or any of the other sorts of things that I would normally want to have in a dwelling. And so I'll be getting around to making those and adding them here before too much longer. Finally, future plans include extending this idea of a terrace to go all the way around the house so that I don't have monsters from outside able to climb up to the house level without following the graded areas of the road. So basically there'll be this 3-meter tall retaining wall that will keep anything except spiders from climbing up. And I'll probably do a little something, a little microblock, something or another along the edges of that to keep them from climbing over too. So that when I do have my powered lanterns in place, the monsters aren't able to get up to the house except by the doorway. And then I'll make a little monster-proof something or another for that. A nice view at nighttime, especially with everything being lit up in contrast. So you can kind of see the structures inside now of all the support beams holding up the center of that large room through the windows. and the staircases, and the windmills. Anyway, so lots more projects. I'm going to go pick something else and get to work on that, and I'll check in when I've made a little bit more progress. Okay, as you can see, it is nighttime outside, and I've got my NEI F7 helper turned on to show me where there's any poorly lit blocks. But I have gone through the entire inside, at least, of the house and gotten rid of all the torches and still managed to light everything up. And I've done so mostly through the use of Chisel and Microblocks. So what I've done is I took glowstone and I've put it through Chisel to produce a, there we go, to produce this pattern, this neon glowstone pattern. And then I took that and chopped it up into various microblocks so that I wound up with a bunch of these teeny little slices, either in this panel form, a cover, or in a strip form, so one of the two. And then I took dacite, which is that nice kind of cement or kind of muted metal looking color, stone from Underground Biomes Constructs, and chopped that up into either nooks or strips as well, and produced a bunch of lights. So here's an overhead fixture. It's a glowstone cover directly on the ceiling with dacite strips and dacite nooks to make a border. And glowstone, you remember, has a light level of 15, so this spreads out pretty well. But obviously, that's not nearly enough light to light up this entire room. And if you look at the floor, you can clearly see light and dark patches where something else is going on. Well, the something else is the fact that all of this floor is made up of microblock slabs, and any microblock allows light to transmit through as though it were plain glass. So all of the lights I've got down in the basement shine through and keep this floor lit up, which means I don't need lights on absolutely every floor and in absolutely every room. I can pick and choose whether I want them above or below, and they'll be able to shine through and help light up rooms that are next to them. So you got to think in 3 dimensions. Here's an example of kind of a fluorescent light oriented vertically. The nook on the bottom, the strip in the middle, and the nook on the top to make it look like it's kind of in some sort of bracket. In this room, I've got another one of the ceiling fixtures, and you can see from the light spots in the corners and right there that I've got some lights down below as well. Next to every door, I've placed one of these vertically oriented lights. And if we head down the stairs here, we can see in all of my downstairs rooms, I've put these vertically oriented ones in the corners, and I've put these horizontally oriented ones wherever necessary, really, to fill up the light in the space. And so as much as things do get dark in the middle of the room here, I can press F3, and we take a look at my statistics, and we can see that where I'm standing is surface light level 9, 8, 7, 6, but never quite dark enough to allow a mob to spawn in an area where it's also simultaneously got enough room to spawn. And so all of these blocks are not showing any dangerous areas here. So let's get all that out of the way. And for the rest of these rooms, similarly lit up with both vertically and horizontally oriented fluorescent tubes. I've got one by each door. And in some rooms, all I need are the ones in the corners because the room's small enough. And in other rooms, I've got them in the corners and above the doors, kind of on the walls and the sides here. But because these are all slabs, this light both lights up the floor in this room and the floor up above. And so I need kind of half as many lights because of the way I've positioned them. Oops, forgot a torch. Shouldn't be needed. So every time I take one out, I kind of want to do a double check to make sure I'm not going to have a monster come visiting me here. In this room here, I've got these lights. Here I've got these ones. These ones are mounted on the sides of the pillars here. So looking at this as a microblock construction, we can see here's a meter that's got just this notch in the corner. Here's a meter that's got this notch right here. That's just a full meter of black granite, a full meter of black granite. The meter just in front of it, above the notch here, has got the glowstone strip. The meter above this one, which has the black granite notch, has the dacite nook. And then above that is another notch. So I've used these notches and strips and pillars to create the look of these fat pillars with broad bases underneath, and then much tinier pieces to create these fluorescent lights. And those go all the way up to the front of the room here. This light actually isn't necessary to light up the rest of this room because these are sufficient. Oh. But these lights don't illuminate enough of the floor up above, so that I wound up with two spots right there, which could still spawn monsters. So I put this one in underneath because this is the easier and nicer looking place to put it. As I make my way back up to the main floor, corners again here. In this room, I actually could get away with not needing any lights at all because all the ones from underneath in the basement light up the room sufficiently well that I didn't actually have to add any more. And then as we go all the way upstairs, we can see outside, of course, it's still quite dark and quite dark enough to cause problems. Those two rooms are the same. I've got one light there, got a ceiling light here, and then I've got all these lights here and a couple of ceiling lights in the center here to fill in the gaps and make sure everything works out. So no more torches on the inside of the building, and it looks like I won't need a powered lantern, at least not because of things on the inside. I still have a bunch of torches out here, and if I were to take these away, it would very rapidly be clear that this is still a dangerous zone. What's interesting is you see there's no torches up here, except for along the verge here. And that's because I'm actually standing on a slab, and monsters won't spawn on anything that's not on a full meter boundary. So none of this area in here is actually in danger of having mobs spawn on it. So one of my options that I may well choose to exercise, even though this here, just looking at this one, even though that's got an X through it, mobs won't spawn on a block that's partially got a microblock in it. So since that glass cover is actually inside this meter, mobs can't actually spawn there. Yeah, so if I didn't want these torches and I didn't want to put lights up here at all, which I may decide I don't, what I can do is just make andesite covers, the thinnest block, and put a whole layer of them all the way around the edge here. And that will make it so that mobs can't spawn on the edges either, because again, that won't be on a even meter boundary anymore. Up here, these are also slabs, and they're also on the bottom part, so this top is not a full meter boundary. I'd have to do the same trick, though, for having covers. And this one will be a little bit trickier, because this pillar, you can't make a cover-thin pillar slice. It's just not the way it works, so I'd have to do something else there. Now over here, I'm kind of in a different situation because this is in fact just regular rhyolite cobblestone, and it will most definitely give rise to monsters if it's not lit up properly. So I do need to have some kind of control over here. Now I could use the same trick as putting covers down. Maybe I'd even do that, I'm not sure. If I did, I'd probably need to rethink using these slabs here on this side, and that's why I don't need the lights on here, because this is not on a meter boundary. But I will give that some more thought and figure out what I want to do. In the interim, though, I've managed to get rid of all of the torches on the inside of the building while using microblocks to add some, kind of cool decorative elements, I think, and have the lights still be fairly unobtrusive. They're not like great big torches sticking out. And since I wanted the style of this building to be much more modern, the long windows and the smooth textures and all that sort of stuff, I think they fit right in. Actually, is you know serving two purposes of making the place not look so barren, and also adding light. And I think that's going to be it for this video. I've been making a bunch of progress with decorations and internal stuff, so I think next I'm going to try and get started with the main power system for the house. So if you like the video, go ahead and hit that like button, hit subscribe to get more like this one, and I will talk to you later.